A church in Canada is reopening after a long pandemic shutdown, but is requiring any who attend to bring proof of vaccination. A church in Tennessee has taken the opposite approach. The pastor has threatened to kick out of the services any who wear a mask to church. A church in Australia was fined and forced to close all operations for a week because it held services in the middle of a ban on all gatherings. A well-known Christian theologian in America recently declared that the Christian response to the pandemic is to get vaccinated, wear masks, and observe all the other recommendations. These are headlines from just the last few weeks, and they show that responses to the pandemic and the issues surrounding it are varied among professing Christians. I am Dave Chambers, pastor of Manistique Bible Church. Today's question addresses a topic that many people have very strong feelings about. And many Christians and churches are looking for the biblical response to the pandemic. The questions and challenges it raises for churches are important ones. And I know that many want to claim biblical justification for their actions. And there are many that are claiming their position is the only biblical response. And so I want to seek a biblical answer to two questions. Would Jesus require people to show proof of vaccination to attend church? Or would Jesus kick someone out for wearing a mask? I can say an unequivocal and absolute no to both questions. Jesus would not turn someone away for not being vaccinated, nor would he refuse someone for wearing a mask. Now we know that Jesus would not require someone to be vaccinated or to somehow otherwise show proof of good health, because Jesus never made health, his health, or the health of those around him a high priority. He preached to crowds full of people infected with deadly and contagious diseases. He willingly exposed himself and his disciples to one of the most terrifying and contagious diseases of the day, leprosy. Jesus always made serving others more important than his own or others' personal health. Jesus made it clear that his greatest concern was for the spiritual well-being of others. This is because Jesus knew that your life is a vapor that appears for a little time and vanishes away again. Now, Jesus was more than ready to heal the sick, but physical health was never most important. And so this question of vaccinations would have been a secondary question to Jesus, because what was most important to him was the forgiveness of sin and exalting the glory of God. The Gospels give several specific examples where Jesus showed that there was something more important than health. Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, but he did so others would believe he was the promised Savior. Jesus healed the blind man so that others would see that he was the Savior sent from God. And Scriptures tells us that all of Jesus' miracles were done as proof that he is God the Son and our Savior. And so healing was just a means to a greater end. Jesus never focused on the physical for the sake of the physical. For example, in John 6, a large crowd followed Jesus. But he rebuked them. He rebuked them because he knew they were seeking him for what they could get out of him. They wanted more food, but they did not want Jesus. They refused to believe that Jesus is the Son of God and the Savior of men. And Jesus confronted them with their unbelief, and by the end of John chapter 6, the crowd had abandoned him. They refused his claims to be a Messiah. Now, Jesus could have given them more food, but he knew that what they really needed and what was most important was to believe him. And likewise, the greatest need of the world today is not deliverance from the latest mutation of the coronavirus. The greatest need of the world today is the same that it has always been. Man needs salvation. Man needs to know God and then to grow in holiness. And anyone who refuses ministry to someone because of health concerns has forgotten the model of Jesus. Anyone who refuses ministry because of masks or vaccines has lost sight of what is most important. And so churches who behave like the one in Canada or the one in Tennessee are not presenting a biblical method. They are aiding the lie that health concerns are most important. Now, this does not mean that wise precautions should never be taken. Certainly at times of severe local outbreak, it would be wise to ask parishioners to wear a mask for a few weeks or to cancel services for a short time. It may be reasonable to ask people to be vaccinated. Reasonable precautions can be taken, provided they do not exclude people from hearing the gospel and they do not communicate that physical health is more important than spiritual health. One author speaking on this topic said we should be begging people to come, not banning them. Jesus said, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." You that are heavy laden, feeling the burden of this disease, Jesus promises to give you rest. And the Bible ends with the plea, "Come. Let him that is thirsty come. And whosoever will, let him take of the water of life freely." And the church that does not echo that invitation has lost sight of its mission. No church should be refusing people entrance because of a hazard they might pose or precaution they take. The church should be open to everyone who is seeking to know the Lord. And the church's message should be clear. It should be the truth of the Bible. And thank you for watching today. If you do not attend church, I invite you to visit a church this weekend. If you're in the Manistee area, stop by Manistee Bible Church. And if you are not saved, that is your most important need. And Jesus invites you to come to Him. Will you do that today? If you have additional questions, you can search everlastingtruths.com to find more biblical answers to your questions.